Is Japan worth visiting? The answer is yes, and it has been yes for long enough, and with enough consistency across enough different types of travelers that it barely requires arguing. Japan is one of the most remarkable countries on Earth by almost any measure a traveler applies. The food, the culture, the aesthetic sensibility, the infrastructure, the historical depth, the natural beauty, the particular quality of attention that Japanese society brings to almost everything it produces. Travelers who go come back saying things they struggle to articulate, describing a country that operates at a different level of care from most places they've been, that surprised them in ways they weren't expecting to be surprised. The reputation is not exaggerated. Japan delivers. So the yes is real, and it deserves to be stated clearly before anything else, because the rest of what needs to be said is more complicated. Here is the honest version of the complication. The Japan that built its global reputation. The Japan that produced the travelers coming back unable to fully describe what they experienced, was built significantly on qualities that the current level of visitation is actively modifying at its most famous points. Order, quiet, the sense of unhurried precision, the feeling of being somewhere that operates with total seriousness. These are the things people describe when they try to explain what Japan does to you. And these are the things that are hardest to access when you're navigating Kyoto's Arashima district on a Saturday in cherry blossom season with 10,000 other people who came for the same reason. This is not a small or temporary problem. Japan received a record 32 million international visitors in 2024, a number that broke every previous record, and that is projected to keep rising. The yen's weakness against the dollar, the euro, and most other major currencies has made Japan dramatically affordable for international visitors in a way it hadn't been for decades, and that affordability has amplified the demand for a country whose reputation was already at the top of most serious travelers' lists. The result is a specific kind of overtourism that is unlike what you find in, say, Venice or Barcelona, because Japan's famous qualities, its precision, its cleanliness, its extraordinary service culture, have largely absorbed the pressure without visibly breaking down. The trains still run. The restaurants are still extraordinary. The temples are still there. The system holds. But holding the system is different from preserving the experience that made the system legendary, and the two have begun to diverge in ways that are worth being honest about before you book. Kyoto is where this divergence is most visible and most consequential because Kyoto is the city whose reputation most specifically rests on the qualities that mass tourism most specifically erodes. The geisha districts of Gion, the bamboo grove at Arashima, the Fushimi Inari torii gates climbing the hillside above the city. These are images of Japan so thoroughly distributed through global travel culture that they've become the primary reason millions of people put Japan on their list. And they're real. The geisha culture in Gion is genuinely one of the most distinctive and carefully preserved performance arts traditions in the world. The bamboo grove is genuinely otherworldly in the right conditions. The Fushimi Inari gates, thousands of them climbing through the forested hillside at dawn when the light falls through the orange torii onto the path below. This is one of the most specifically beautiful experiences available in Japan. The problem is the right conditions part. The bamboo grove at Arashima in peak season, at the hours when most visitors arrive, produces what is essentially a crowded pedestrian corridor through bamboo. Beautiful in parts, impossible to photograph without strangers in frame, impossible to experience the quietness that the bamboo creates when there's almost nobody in it. The geisha of Gion are now so aggressively photographed by tourists, some of whom pursue them down lanes, block their path, grab their sleeves, that the city has had to install no photography signs and erect barriers in specific areas, and the Maiko and Geico have spoken publicly about the experience of harassment that their walks between appointments have become. Fushimi Inari remains extraordinary early in the morning and is the most instructive example of what the right timing does. At 6 in the morning, the gates are largely empty, and the experience they produce is close to what their reputation promises. By 10, the gates are full, and the experience has changed in proportion to the crowd. This is not a reason not to go to Kyoto. It's a reason to go to Kyoto with a specific understanding of what the timing requires and what the planning needs to include. Every major site in Kyoto now has a right time and a wrong time, and the margin between them, the hours in which the experience is close to what the reputation describes and the hours in which it isn't, has compressed as visitation has increased. 6 to 8 in the morning is now the primary window for many of Kyoto's most famous experiences, where it was once simply a pleasant optional early start. This is a real change, and it requires a real adjustment in how the trip is structured. Tokyo is experiencing a different version of the same pressure, and the version is worth naming because it's less about specific sites and more about the neighborhoods that made Tokyo's reputation with travelers who go deeper than the landmarks. The food neighborhoods of Shikoku, the vintage markets of Koenji, the early morning tuna auction at Toyosu, the standing sushi bars and ramen shops that produced the obsessive food travel writing that made Tokyo's culinary scene globally legendary. Most of these still exist, and most of them are still extraordinary. But the specific ones that became globally famous have responded to their fame in ways that some travelers find disappointing after the anticipation. The sushi restaurants in Tsukiyabashi-jiro, whose waiting list and booking process became internationally known, have now become, for some visitors, primarily about the booking achievement rather than the meal. The neighborhoods that made Tokyo interesting to serious travelers a decade ago are now in the guidebooks of every major travel publication, and being in the guidebooks changes them in ways that are small but cumulative. None of this means Tokyo has peaked or is declining. It means Tokyo's reputation is a moving target that requires seeking the current version of it rather than arriving expecting the version described in the articles that created the reputation. Japan outside the famous circuit is where the answer to "is it worth it" becomes most emphatically and least complicatedly yes. The small cities and towns that were bypassed by the rush to Kyoto and Tokyo and Osaka offer the Japan of the reputation in conditions closer to what the reputation was built on. Kanazawa, on the Sea of Japan coast, is described by many who've been as the most Kyoto-like city in Japan outside Kyoto itself. Beautifully preserved samurai and geisha districts, Kenrikuen Garden, which many rate as the finest in Japan, excellent local food culture, at a fraction of Kyoto's visitor density. Takayama in the Hida Mountains is a preserved Edo period town of extraordinary beauty in a mountain setting, small enough to be entirely walkable and large enough to sustain multiple days. The Noto Peninsula, further up the Sea of Japan coast, has a rural Japan of fishing villages and traditional crafts and coastline that the international tourism circuit barely touches. Tohoku, the northeastern region of Honshu, is arguably the most scenically and culturally rich, underdeveloped tourism region in Japan. The historic samurai town of Kakunadate, the mountain temple of Yamadera, the hot springs towns of Ginzan Onsen and Muto Onsen, and landscapes that look specifically like the woodblock prints that introduced Japan to Western visual culture, all operating at visitor levels that make the experience feel genuinely personal rather than managed. Tohoku is still mostly a domestic tourism region, which is the best thing about it for the international visitor paying attention. Shikoku, the smallest of Japan's 4 main islands, has the 88 temple pilgrimage circuit that has operated for over 1,200 years and that continues to attract both traditional Henro pilgrims walking the full circuit in white robes and contemporary travelers who walk sections of it. The pilgrimage culture, the landscape, the small towns that have supported pilgrims for centuries. This is a Japan with essentially no comparison in the global tourism imagination, and it's available and excellent and undervisited. The food answer to "is it worth it" remains the most straightforward in Japan's favor, because the food is the aspect of the country least affected by overtourism and most consistently delivering what its reputation promises. Japan's restaurant culture is the most highly developed and most consistently excellent in the world. This is the view not only of tourists but of serious food professionals globally, and it extends from the highest level of kaiseki and sushi to the ramen shop, where the chef has been perfecting one bowl for 30 years. The specific genius of Japanese food culture is that this care extends through all levels of the system, so the convenience store onigiri and the airport soba are genuinely better than the equivalent in most countries, and the neighborhood izakaya serving grilled things and cold beer to salarymen after work is producing food that would be a destination in most other food cultures. None of this has been compromised by the visitor increase, because the Japanese food system was not built for tourists and doesn't particularly recalibrate for them. It's built for a domestic culture that has always expected quality at every level, and the visitors benefit from that expectation without having caused it. The transport answer is similarly uncomplicated. Japan's rail network remains the most efficient, the most reliable, and the most comprehensive in the world, and the JR Pass, the rail pass available to foreign visitors that allows unlimited travel on Japan Railways trains, makes the country's interior dramatically accessible to anyone willing to use it. The Shinkansen bullet train network connects Sapporo and Hokkaido to Kagoshima at the southern tip of Kyushu in a chain of lines that makes intercity travel faster, more comfortable, and more reliable than flying between most of the same points. The local rail and subway networks in every major Japanese city are models of what urban public transport can be. Getting around Japan is one of the most reliably excellent parts of the experience, and one of the things the overtourism pressure has not touched. So, honestly, is Japan worth visiting? Yes, with the understanding that yes, in 2025 requires more preparation than it did in 2015, and different preparation than the guides written in 2015 will provide. The Japan that's worth visiting is still entirely there. The Kyoto that the reputation describes is available at 6 in the morning. The Tokyo that serious food and culture travelers have been writing about for 20 years is available if you look for the current version of it rather than the version of 10 years ago. The Japan beyond the famous circuit, Kanazawa, Takayama, Tohoku, Shikoku, is available with minimal competition and extraordinary reward. What requires adjustment is the expectation that the famous Japan of the global imagination is still accessible at 10 in the morning in cherry blossom season without planning. It isn't quite. The planning required to access it has increased with the visitation. That's a real change, and pretending it isn't would be dishonest. But Japan's response to being one of the most visited countries on Earth has been characteristically Japanese. The system has absorbed the pressure, maintained its quality, and continued to produce something extraordinary. The country has not been ruined by the people who went to find what made it special. It's been compressed. The window for the specific experience has narrowed, and the planning required to access it has grown, but the experience itself is intact, available to anyone who arrives knowing what the current version of Japan requires. The people who will be disappointed are the ones who arrive expecting a country at rest, and find one that is managing itself under genuine pressure. The ones who will be transformed are the ones who arrive knowing the pressure exists, build their planning around it, and find that underneath it, and particularly in the places it hasn't reached yet, Japan is still exactly what everyone said it was. Worth visiting. Worth planning carefully. Worth going sooner rather than later, before the window for the uncrowded version of the most famous places narrows further. And worth going beyond the famous places, where the Japan that made the reputation is available in something close to its original form at a fraction of the competition, with all the same extraordinary care that made the reputation in the first place. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.